We are live. Greetings, everyone. I don't know who's in the queue here to watch yet. My guest, Robert Lawson, give me a chance to get myself set up here, and then we'll get into it. Hope everyone is having a great day. We're pretty excited about this myself all day. I've been anxious to get this going. And here we are. James, welcome. 3 people watching so far. It'll pick up. This is live, James. Thanks for joining us. Like I said, I've got Robert Lawson here, author of 3 really interesting books. Razum Snaz, The Listener's Guide to Nazareth. Still Competition. Oh. The Listener's Guide to Cheap Trick. I don't have either. I have that Nazareth book. I bought it off you when it first came out, and somewhere in all the moving, it's in a box somewhere. Oh, I don't know where it is. I couldn't find it. And I guess your latest published book would be Wheatfield Empire: The Listener's Guide to the Guess Who.
There we are.
And an exciting 4th book that hopefully we will get to as we go on. So when did your first book come out?
I don't know. 6 years
ago. I'm going to guess 2016. Does that sound about right?
Let's see here. 2016. We have a winner.
There we go. I just know from let me just kind of do an introduction. We've known each other for I think I'm going to say around 2011, 2012. The reason I'm thinking I know it's at least 2012 is because one of the things you turned me on to was when they started to reissue the Zappa catalog. Remember? Right. They bring out about 4 titles a month or whatever it did, and I used to run to your store all the time. Bob manages he manages a record store for Sunrise Records, and I used to run to your store at Shepherd and Young, and every time when these came out, I bought them. I had 70 of them.
Right.
It's crazy. So we met then and became friends just because we're both music geeks, and you turned me on to a lot of stuff, and I just want to mention a couple before we start. When did Record Store Days start? Do you know the whole concept of that started?
It was when I was at the Shepherd location.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So probably around that time, right?
Yeah, we had a few of them while I was still there. It was a lot of fun back then.
Yeah, so I remember you turning me on to this album. I was a huge Jefferson Airplane fan and never knew anything about this album. Qua by Jorma Kekkonen. And you told me that was coming out Record Store Day, and I went in and picked it up from you on the day when it came out, and I said, that's thank you so much for turning me on to that. And another artist that you turned me on to was Alejandro Escovedo.
Oh, yes.
This CD in particular, Burn Something Beautiful. So that was they were things. So they were good times.
And yeah, Alejandro is a great artist. You can't go wrong with almost anything that he does. He's coming to Toronto soon.
No way.
Yeah, I think he's playing. I don't know if it's the Sony Center or somewhere, but
that big a place, eh?
I think he's definitely coming. I
got to look that up. As soon as we're done here tonight, I will be.
Maybe the Opera House. He's definitely coming to Toronto. Yeah, check it out. He's great. I've seen him a few times. Fantastic artist. Great.
Thanks for letting me know that. That's awesome. Mark, not too many be talking about the Guess Who anymore. I'm ready. Right on. This is Emma she has her own channel called 8 Vinyl Low. She's awesome. She's a huge Cheap Trick fan. And I know she's a big fan of your book. So I knew she'd be here tonight.
Nice.
And most Guess Who news I see is about the imposters touring under their name. Yeah, I'm sure we'll get a bit of a conversation about that. So, so your first book was the Nazareth book, and it pretty successful, I'm assuming, for your first shot.
Yeah, well, it was a learning curve for me for sure. I didn't really know what I was doing, and I kind of gave it a shot. Pretty happy when it came out. I was able to spend some time with Dan McCafferty in Scotland, and he had a lot of questions about the book, which was kind of neat. It's also I think it's my only book that it was also published in Brazil.
Wow.
So this is a Portuguese translation for the book. And
is that a hotbed for Nazareth fans?
Yeah, it's one of their biggest markets down there. They're really, really big in Brazil. So so that was like really cool and really fun when they did when I got a Brazilian publisher interested in it. Really happy with that. There's a clip. I don't know if it's on my YouTube or just on my Facebook or something, but I recorded a little ad for this version of the book entirely in Portuguese. So
is it just your lips moving and you're lip syncing to someone else, or you're actually?
Oh no, I'm speaking Portuguese in it. Yeah,
that. Man of many talents. How did you first get the interest or the motivation to do your first book? I'm intrigued by how long were you thinking about this before you jumped in, and just to have the courage to actually do it and get it published is just amazing to me.
Well, it was something that I'd actually started a book project. Now it would be probably like 24 or 25 years ago, and it was more of a true crime kind of thing, and I was really devoted to it. I was really into it, and then my life got pretty complicated, and I just put it on the back burner, and then just could never get back to it. So this is my TED talk for inspiration of getting stuff done. I felt bad about that for a really long time. I still had all the stuff I'd worked on, all the research and stuff, but I just couldn't get back to it. And by the time I had time that I could get back to it, I felt like I didn't know the subject matter as well anymore. And so I felt really bad about that for a long time, starting something and then not finishing it. Man, that was crushing. So I did have a website for a long time of record reviews and album reviews and concerts and stuff like that. And a friend of mine, Martin Popoff, who's written like 100 books or something on different heavy metal and hard rock bands.
I'm familiar with the name.
He's done like Rush books and just
that's where I really know him from. Yeah, the Rush books.
But he's been a friend for quite a while, and he was reading some stuff on my website, and we were on the phone, and he said, "Do you know that much information about other bands? Because there's a lot of detail in some of these articles on your website." So I was literally standing kind of behind where you see here on the phone with Martin Popoff, looking at different CDs, thinking, well, what do I know a lot about and that I care enough about to maybe write a book? So my first idea was Cheap Trick. And then I thought, well, there's a really good book written by a friend of mine named Mike Hayes in Scotland called Reputation is a Fragile Thing. I'm like, I can't compete with that. And I thought, well, there's never been a book about Nazareth. Maybe I should do that, because I got a lot of Nazareth CDs. I grew up with their music. And so that was sort of it. So it was a combination of Martin pushing me to do it and me feeling bad for all those years for abandoning a book project. So it's like for people who can't imagine, doing a book, oh, it seems so hard or whatever. Well, not doing a book was really hard on me.
Yeah.
Like I just felt terrible about, all the time that I put onto that, project when I was a lot younger and I had more time. So there was no way I wasn't going to finish the Nazareth book. I didn't know what I was doing. I was making it up as I go along, pages everywhere and not really, just not knowing anything. but there was no way I was going to give up on it because I knew what that felt like, and I sucked. So so I was really focused on that, really focused for, I don't know, 2.5 years or whatever it took me to do it. And just getting it out there was like a great feeling. And after that, I thought, oh, maybe I could do a Cheap Trick one. Now that I have a format and I could see that it's different from what Mike Hayes did with his Cheap Trick book, it could kind of complement his book. And plus, his book had been out of print for quite a while, and mine would bring it more up to what was then the present time.
The research has got to be painstaking, because I mean, it's pretty deep.
Yeah, the research is one of the most fun parts of it for me. Like, I love digging into stuff like that. And when you have these little moments when you realize something and go, hold on, I don't think that's ever been said before. Or, like when you really start digging, you just find all this, stuff. I'll give you a quick example. The Cheap Trick, on their second album, they have a song called Southern Girls. So Rick Nielsen, in interviews, he has said that it's actually about Southern Canadian girls, but that, didn't rhyme. That didn't really fit. It's, Southern Ontario girls from being on tour in Canada and meeting, Canadian girls and stuff like that. And I always believed that. Always thought that was, a cool story. And as a Canadian, I like that when I listen to the song, it's not about girls in Texas or Florida. It's actually girls in Canada.
Wow.
But then, as I'm researching for my book and I'm digging around and I'm realizing, so that song is on their very first demo tape that they made in like 1975 in Memphis. They had never toured Canada at that point. They had, of course not. They were like playing bowling alleys in Illinois.
They were just screaming about Southern Canadian girls.
Maybe, yeah. So I reached out to Bunny Carlos, who I was in touch with quite a bit while I was doing my book. And I said, I think I just found out something. When Rick says that Southern Girls is really about Canadian girls, he's pulling our leg, right? And Bun says, yeah, we didn't know any Canadian girls back then. So, when you find out stuff like that,
yeah,
maybe nobody knew before, or nobody put it together. So I love the research part of it. That's always a lot of fun, where you just go down. You don't know where it's going to take you.
It's a rabbit hole.
Absolutely. And you find some pretty interesting things along the way.
Wow. So when you're doing this and you're researching, how do you get access to the band and stuff? Are they pretty receptive once they know you're writing a book that's a positive thing for them? Or
some of them are. I mean, you get all kinds of different reactions with, current members, former members. You get it all. So like I was saying, how the research is one of my favorite parts. One of my least favorite parts is getting resistance from either band members or management. And that happens too sometimes. Sometimes you run into people who either for some reason are suspicious of what you're doing, or they think there's some ulterior motive, or I go out of my way immediately every time to say there's no gossip in my books. There's nothing about their personal lives, or very, very little. There's no, talking about rehab or, girlfriends and all, any kind of, I'm not interested in any of that kind of stuff. I wouldn't read a book that it focuses on that kind of stuff. Mine stuff is like deep into the music, albums, tours, live shows, bootlegs, radio broadcasts, TV appearances, all that stuff. I don't go into, who is cheating on who and all that kind of stuff. But, some of them kind of don't buy it, or I don't know what the problem is. But then other people are really, really into it. Burton Cummings was great. I had really free access to him and to most of the Guess Who members, which was great. And my new project that is coming out this year, I think now I've interviewed 34 people for it. Wow. So way more access than kind of my all three books combined. With Nazareth and Cheap Trick, I would just talk to like one or two of the guys and, be kind of intimidated by the other ones. But now that I guess that I've done a few of them, so there's a little bit of a name to, at least maybe not so much a name, but if they want, I can like send them a PDF copy of one of the previous books and they can see the format. And I think actually with Burton, I gave him a copy of the Cheap Trick book so he could really see. And I know he read a few chapters here and there to get a feel for what I was doing. So so now that I have a few books, I can offer that to them.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not just like saying that I'm only going to focus on the music. They can look at it and see that it goes really deep in the music.
Well, I think it's brilliant the way your format is. It's you wouldn't want to you can't call it a biography, but you do tell the story chronologically with the music as it's being recorded and released, and
yeah,
it's just brilliantly done the way you've done that. I love it. Kudos to you for that. It's makes it really interesting. Like for instance, I'm sure you're aware of the Charles Ulrich Zappa book, The Big Note.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing's like, it's huge,
right.
and it's almost like looking up at a dictionary, or just it's like, oh, let's look at this album and see the date it was recorded and that. But you're kind of telling a story as you go along, which is really, really good.
Yeah, it can get a little dry if you
exactly
if you make it kind of too academic or just too stat kind of filled.
Exactly.
My books tend to have a little bit of, there's a little bit of humor in there sometimes, the way that I describe some things. And I know somebody reviewed the Cheap Trick book on Amazon, and they said something like, okay, Lawson doesn't like Vince Neil, we get it. Because I think Vince Neil's name comes up a couple times in Cheap Trick, and I always take a swing at him. Just all in fun, of course.
Here's a question for you from Douglas. When did you discover Cheap Trick? I discovered them in 1974 in Wisconsin, Illinois.
Wow. I discovered them accidentally, actually. It was June or July 1977, and I went to see my favorite band at the time, Kiss, on the Love Gun tour, and Cheap Trick were the opening act. They only had the first album out. They were taking a break from recording the second album in LA, so they did I think they did 21 dates in they did the whole Canadian and US Love Gun tour with Kiss, and a lot of people up in Canada were, or even in the States, I guess, were first kind of turned on to Cheap Trick from that Kiss tour, because that was a really big tour for Kiss. So I have two different friends who saw that tour in Montreal. I know people who saw it in the States. It didn't come to Toronto. I was living in Winnipeg at the time. So yeah, summer of 77. I had no idea who they were. I think probably a lot of people didn't know who they were, but that was it. I was really interested in who I was seeing. I think I was 10.
Did you my apologies, because I did not read the Cheap Trick book, but I'm just wondering, were there any stories about them working with John Lennon on the Double Fantasy sessions, or did you?
I have a story, but I didn't put it in my book because it's not even really so much a Cheap Trick story. But you're a big Beatles guy, so I don't think I've ever actually told this story, but there used to be actually another customer up at the Young and Shepherd Center who, when he was a lot younger, worked for, I guess, Sony Music. So he met the Cheap Trick guys when they were promoting one of the albums. And Rick told him a story that when they were recording Double Fantasy, Yoko had John Lennon on like some pure like vegetarian diet or something, or just health food, or I don't know, protein shakes or something. So the Cheap Trick guys brought him pizza to the session, and so John was sneaking pieces of pizza under the console in case Yoko came back to the session.
Yeah, he probably lived in fear of her.
yeah, so he was like scared that she was going to catch him eating pizza.
That's a great story.
So yeah, it's not really a Cheap Trick story, so I couldn't put it in the book, but
yeah. Was any of the work they did on that actually on the record? Or I always heard stories that they didn't get any credit or any of the.
No, their stuff was only came out later on that Lennon box.
Yeah.
where they have the version of "I'm Losing You." It was just Rick and Bun
Okay.
on. So yeah, anything that they did for the album ended up getting dubbed over, I guess, with studio musicians or something.
Interesting. There's a gentleman who's James Martin Popoff is a Canadian rock writer. Is weekly on the Sea of Tranquility. Okay, yeah, that's a great channel.
I've tried to get on that channel so many times. I don't want to.
Really, eh?
I guess Pete doesn't want to have me on. I don't know.
Oh, come on, Pete. We're gonna have to let's flood Pete with some comments. Get Robert on there. Hello, Glenn and Robert. Greetings, everyone. To Knucklehead Rock. My friend Larry Graves, the Canadian Stud Muffin. Hi, guys. I bought Robert's Guess Who book a couple of years ago, and I thought it was superb. I highly recommend it. Hey, Larry, I was just watching one of your videos before Glenn distracted me. Probably Yoko's macrobiotic diet. Yeah. Well, she's still kicking at 90, so she's doing something right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. So, the Guess Who book. So it's been out what now? A couple of years?
Came out like right at the beginning of the pandemic, kind of. So it kind of cost me a lot of extra promotion that I could have had, which has been a thorn in my side ever since. You know, a lot of Canadian media basically laid off their newsrooms because the only real stories at the time were the Trump presidency and the pandemic. So, you know, there were no concerts, there were no sporting events, there's no so a lot of entertainment departments of various newspapers or newsrooms got laid off. So it was hard kind of for me to get as much attention as I kind of thought I was going to or was hoping to get for the Guess Who book. I did get an article or an interview from the Winnipeg Free Press newspaper. And that was very, very special to me because when I was a kid, I used to deliver that paper.
Oh, are you born and raised Winnipeg or?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Interesting.
So to actually have a picture of me holding the Guess Who book in the Winnipeg paper that I used to, you know, deliver for, I don't know, I was like 10 years old or 12, I don't know.
Oh, wow.
In the 70s anyway. So that was very cool. Very, very cool to get that. But, you know, I'd reached out to a lot of Canadian media and they were just, you know, not doing anything anymore except for, you know, the world. And I guess when the world is in flames, a guy's dorky book about a Winnipeg rock band isn't quite as important.
Yeah. And you hit the big time. This one's available in hardcover too. Is that the first one? That's the first one that was available both, right? Hardcover?
No, all three. All three were.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and still, you got anybody who's watching is not. You can buy these on Amazon. You can buy them at, I'm sure, your local chapters and Indigo stores. And are they available in the U.S. too? And like the Barnes and Noble or any?
Yeah, Barnes and Noble has them. Actually, the Nazareth book is out of print now, so I have a few remaining copies. It's running really low. I have a few of those. In fact, I think I mailed out 2 last week. So that one is a little tougher to get. You got to get it directly from me. But yeah, the other books you can get them if you're in Etobicoke. I sell them all at my store. So if you want a personal signed copy, you can get it directly from me in Etobicoke, or I ship out books all the time too. But yeah, if anyone's in other parts of the country or the world, all international Amazon sites carry the Cheap Trick and the Guess Who book for sure.
And you're available on Facebook. It's called this side of the tracks.
This side of the tracks is, I don't know if it's supposed to sort of be my business Facebook, but you can also just look up Robert Lawson on Facebook.
And the same on Instagram. I think it's Robert.James.Lawson is the title of the channel. So, or your Instagram page. So yeah, please reach out to Robert and support him. The books are great.
Yeah, we ship like within 24 hours of getting payment notifications. So if somebody sends me a quick PayPal with the shipping costs and stuff like that, we get them out right away.
That's awesome. How did you decide on the Guess Who as your third subject?
Well, you know, kind of the same criteria. It has to be a band that I already know a lot about, that I already have a lot of raw detail, you know, raw information. And it also has to be a band that I care about so much, I'm going to be listening to almost nothing but for at least 2.5, 3 years.
That's not hard to do. I love the Guess Who. So
so just kind of, and I guess another thing that comes into it is there'd only ever been one book about the Guess Who. Came out in 1997, I think, and it's been out of print for years.
So I wasn't even aware of that until I was reading through this and you mentioned it. Yeah.
So that's all.
Besides that, it's Randy Bachman's book. I don't think there's ever been a book on Burton Cummings. Has there? Has he ever written a biography? Or
no, he was writing an autobiography like 20 years ago or something, and posting chapters occasionally online. And since then, he's been quite vocal that he's just not going to do it. He feels that he shares so much on Facebook and stuff that sort of is his life story. So I don't think he'll ever do it. But for me, knowing that the previous Guess Who book was out of print and 1997, it's missing like a whole chunk of everything that happened since in their solo careers as well as the Guess Who. So there has to kind of be a market for it, like I'm a big Dylan guy. I'm a big Miles Davis guy. Those are like my two big main people. I would never write a book about either of them because there's already like 100 of each of them, unless I could come up with a really, really unique view, which I'm probably not clever enough to do that. So,
it'd be hard to come up with I think every angle on Dylan's been done 4 times over. I think I've read most of them too.
Yeah, I used to collect Dylan books like about 20 years ago, and I think I got up to like 30.
Wow, yeah, I have quite a few myself. I had the privilege of going to Tulsa last October to go visit the Bob Dylan Center.
Right.
If you ever get a chance to do that, do it. It's amazing.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, just a wealth of stuff in there. It's amazing. Really good journey.
Right.
Yeah. The Guess Who book, did you get early access to people to get this going, or was it more on your own researching, or how Burton like right away? I know Burton Cummings was on board, and there's a lot of comments and stuff from him here. He was pretty supportive. How do you get to Burton?
I knew Burton previously. Actually, around the time that you and I knew each other at the record store, I'd gone to know Burton because at the time he was looking for like old footage of the Guess Who and old recordings and stuff like that. And I had a lot of Guess Who bootlegs and some TV appearances and stuff. So it was another customer who'd been friends with Burton for a long time. He kind of connected us. And so I started like burning CDs and DVDs for Burton. And then at one point when I was at Shepherd, Burton invited me to a band rehearsal. So me and one of my mates went up to somewhere near the airport or something. I don't remember exactly. And his whole band was there, and they rehearsed for like 2 hours. And we were sitting on a couch kind of above the band, looking down on them, just basically them performing a free concert for us. And then I think the next time I saw Burton maybe was at Massey Hall or maybe in Hamilton or something, and I had another stack of CDs and DVDs for him. So I already knew him from that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't too hard to get him on board. And then, some of the other guys came in line and, some of them didn't.
Yeah. Randy Bachman wouldn't participate.
Originally, Randy was on board, and I was really excited to talk to him, even though I was proceeding with caution because his stories are often filled with inaccuracies or just 100% untruths. But I still want to talk to him. I'm a big fan of his writing in the Guess Who. So we had it all set up. He invited me to a show at Casino-Rama, said I had to bring like a video camera so we could tape it. And then after that, we'd be doing follow-ups either through FaceTime or through email or whatever. And I was all in. I had all my questions ready, and I was really excited. And then, like, I don't know, 3 days before or something, he said, "No, not going to do it." And he had a whole bunch of reasons which weren't true at all. He said, you can't really go into the personal lives of musicians who work so hard, and you're not going to talk to Gary Peterson and Jim Cale, so it'll never be the true story. And, respectfully, I responded to him and I said, when I pitched the concept to both him and Burton backstage at the C&E when they had played a show. They were both 100%. Burton was like, "You're the guy," and Randy, he was in it totally, and we had exchanged a few emails. And then all of a sudden, he said, "No." I said,
Wow, he must have been misguided on what he thought the intention was in the book. I mean,
"Well,
really, it's
well, somebody out there, and we don't have to say the person's name. Somebody out there told me point blank, you cannot write a book about the Guess Who. You're a nobody. Nobody knows who you are. And if there's going to be a book about the Guess Who, it should be a famous critic like Robert Christgau or Dave Marsh or Robert Hilburn or any of these really big guys."
yeah, but they're not writing the book.
No, they're not. And that was my response.
Yeah.
It was a very tense phone call. And,
Wow.
And this person said, "Well, enough time's gone by. I don't mind telling these stories."
Yeah.
The person actually said, "If you don't interview both Burton and Randy, then you can't have a Guess Who book." So he knew that Burton was already on board. So he didn't want to tell Burton not to do it. So instead he went to Randy, who he knew and stuff. So he told Randy a bunch of lies, that my book was going to be a tell-all and it was going to be a hatchet job and stuff. And Randy, unfortunately, believed him.
Did you ever give Randy a copy of the book?
No.
Have you ever heard feedback, whether he's ever read it or looked at it? Or it'd be interesting to go see him and hand it to him and say, just take a look what we did.
I would if I had a chance to see him. I would, because I responded to that email and I said, "Randy, the way that I pitched the book to you at the C&E, that it's all about music. There's no gossip. It's not a tell-all. It's not a hatchet job of any kind. You're getting misinformation from someone who doesn't care about your story being told correctly."
Yeah.
So everything that I said was true. Like my intentions were true.
Yeah.
And I've not changed.
Flavor of love, you can tell when you read it. I mean, it's not.
I said, I've not changed one bit. And, please, let's try to revisit this. And I can, try to prove to you that, you not being in this book is just not right. You should be in the book. And we haven't spoken since.
Wow.
And I'm not really in a rush to, I'm really disappointed in Randy that he would believe someone who, ironically, it didn't stop me from writing the book. I was too far gone anyway. The majority of the book was done. I wasn't going to stop at that point just because somebody, tells me to my face, "You're a nobody." So, the book's out, and it would be better if it had some of Randy's input, although, again, I would have to very carefully edit him because I don't like it when he goes off the rails and starts telling these fictional stories. But I wanted him in there. And, the other thing that, when he said, "You're not talking to Gary Peterson, and you're not talking to Jim Cale," a year after that or something, I did talk to Gary Peterson. Gary's in the book. Gary was very cool. It was a short interview because he's not one of the writers in the band, so we didn't have a super amount of stuff to talk about, but we still talked. And I talked to Bill Wallace and Donnie McDougall and like a lot of guys.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Randy believes somebody that he really shouldn't have, because that person did not have Randy's best interest in hearts. Very disappointing.
It would be nice to get him a copy of the book.
He can buy it.
Yeah, you can buy it. Yeah. Excellent. I want to give a shout out to I know a friend of yours and someone that I greatly admire, probably my favorite Canadian author, David Bendini.
Oh,
he wrote the introduction to your book, and you guys are friends, I assume.
Yeah, I've known Dave for a long time. I consider the Rheostatics the greatest band to ever come out of Canada.
Wow, his books are just On a Cold Road. If there's anybody out there watching who hasn't read that book, one of the greatest books I've ever read on the subject of music and touring and playing in a band, and it's just amazing book.
Yeah, it's brilliant the way that he did it, because it follows a tour of the Rheostatics being the opening act for the Tragically Hip.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it kind of weaves in all these other Canadian stories of, the guys for the Stampeders and Ian and Sylvia and whatever. So it's kind of like a history of Canadian music at the same time that he's talking in the present about what his band's going through, opening for the Hip. Yeah, great band. I used to go see the Rheostatics. I've seen the Rheostatics more than like any other band.
Wow.
So I used to go to see them and record them and film them, and I was just like obsessed with like those first 5 or 6 albums. So I figured he'd be a great guy to write the introduction for a book about Canada's first real big, success story. And I was really, really glad that he did it. Really happy about that.
That's great. The other book he wrote that I really liked was I can't remember what it's called, Looking for Gordon Lightfoot or Searching for Gordon Lightfoot. Did you ever read that?
I haven't read that one. No, I know of it.
He tells a lot. He spends a lot of time talking about a famous event, the Mariposa Folk Festival, the famous gate crashing at Mariposa. I was a gate crasher at that festival. So when I'm reading that, going, oh man, this is like he told it just perfectly. It was great because everything I remember about it, swimming between the canals and jumping over the snow fence.
Right.
That was weekend. Bob Dylan was there on the Saturday, and people were going nuts. And Joni Mitchell closed the festival on the Sunday night, and it was crazy. That was like 1970 or something, I think.
Right.
Yeah. That was crazy. Yeah, he's great. So if anybody out there, David Bendini, check out the Rheostatics and also check out his books. They're amazing. Wow. What's your favorite Guess Who album?
Jeez. I love them. I really love them all, and that's not me wussing out. I think what's great about the Guess Who albums are each, they're really only kind of around for 10 years. Each album that they did has a couple of singles that you'll know from the radio, and then they'll have a couple of like experimental kind of tunes. Then there might be a bluesy kind of tune, more of a psychedelic thing, a little folky thing. So each album to me has everything. Each one has a lot of different stuff going on. I think if you only have a greatest hits or a best of the Guess Who, you're not really experiencing what that band was really, really like. So the early stuff, I really love. So Long Bannatyne is a favorite of mine. The number 10 album.
I was just listening to that before we came on. It's a great one. So Long Bannatyne. Yeah.
Share the Land. They're all great.
My favorite.
They're all really strong albums, and they almost do a disservice by putting out so many greatest hits and best of compilations. Because if I love all those radio hits too. Like those are fantastic. I grew up on those on the radio as a kid. But if you look past those, every album's got great, great stuff that you'll never hear on the radio. And I made a point in the book to make sure that I mentioned those kind of deep cuts where there's like little harmony things going on and just a lot of really, really great stuff. Plus, a real wonderful live album, live at the Paramount.
Yeah,
which
I think was reissued on CD with some extra tracks, right?
Yeah, Buddha Records put it out with like 6 bonus tracks from the original concert that had never been out before. So that's even better. And then in my book, I talk in detail about the remaining 4 songs that have still never come out. Really? But I had access to them, so I discussed those 4 songs in detail in the book.
Wow, I probably haven't. I've been skipping through this, and I probably haven't seen that chapter yet on the live album. That's great. Wow. Yeah, So Long Bannatyne had some crazy stuff on it, like fiddling and I can't even think. So Long Bannatyne's such a great song. It is a great album. Yeah. Then you got like Come Down Off the Money Bag off of of Share the Land and amazing.
Yeah, a lot of great stuff. And for some reason, a lot of people don't realize that Randy Bachman's only on a couple of the first early albums.
I know. After American Woman, he's gone, right?
That's right. So they did great stuff without him. Once you had Kurt Winter in there, I think Kurt Winter was just a real valuable songwriting partner for Burton. He brought a lot of songs that were already written and a great, great guitar player too. Yeah. So they did all kinds of great, really good stuff with Kurt Winter.
Yeah. Is he still with us?
No, Kurt passed away mid 2000s, maybe.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Wow. Do you know if there's I always wonder if any band ever needed a reissue campaign on vinyl, it would be the Guess Who or box set, something. Is there any legal reasons why that's not done, or just they don't think there's enough interest, or what? Because I would that would be an immediate purchase for me if they came up with a vinyl box set of the Guess Who catalog.
There was a box that came out right, I think maybe the first summer of the pandemic.
Oh, was there?
Yeah, Randy and Burton they had a whole tour planned almost around this box set that they were going to be promoting it. And it's, I think it's 6 original Guess Who albums, and
Okay.
then, or maybe 5, which means that there's some of the ones without Randy on them.
Hmm.
And then there's one album that's Burton solo hits,
Yeah.
and one that's Randy, I guess a mix of BTO, and it might have like Prairie Town on it or something.
Okay.
It's a white box. I think it might just be called Bachman Cummings, and it's
Yeah.
got their
Oh, I've seen that. Okay. Okay.
so
It's
that's a
not under the Guess Who moniker.
no, no. So it's just, but the first, I think it's 5 or 6 albums in there. So it's got American Woman, Share the Land, Bannatyne. I don't know if it goes past Bannatyne. It probably starts with like We Feel Soul or Canned Wheat. So it's all those. Yeah, probably We Feel Soul, Canned Wheat, American Woman, Share the Land, and Bannatyne. I think it's those 5. Then the Burton album compilation, and a Randy album. That box set wasn't out yet when my book came out, but I was in touch with the guys who were putting it together. So probably on the last page or the second last page of the Guess Who book, there'll be a track listing for that box set.
Is that box set still in print? Or
I think it was. I only ever got one copy of it at my shop, and it sold like the first day. So there is a new Burton Cummings website for his merch. He's changed, I guess, people doing his merch, and I think you can still get the box from him directly. And he's reissuing some of his older albums on CD for the first time.
Oh, is he?
With bonus tracks.
He's doing a tour, right?
He's playing a bunch of dates this summer. Yeah, he's finally doing a whole bunch of dates in the States. He hasn't really been there in quite a while, and I think, I don't know if it's like 4 of his albums. There's 2 of them available now with bonus tracks, and then there's 2 more coming out, I guess later this summer or something. Like an album like Sweet Sweet. I think that's one of the ones that's out now. It was never available in the States before, never out on CD.
Oh, interesting. That'd be good. Yeah, hopefully he draws a good crowd. And you think he's doing a lot of Guess Who numbers on his tour, or just?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I saw him a couple years ago, and he does a lot of Guess Who. He does some of his stuff, and he might throw in a cover or 2. Mm-hmm. He is touring, or he's recording, or just finishing up recording a new album of all new original material.
Really, that'll be interesting.
So that'll be coming out this year.
His voice is still there.
Well, he's even older than you.
Yeah. No, that's impossible. There's no one older than me.
I found a guy.
Yeah, I think is he mid-70s now?
Yeah, I think he's going to turn 75 maybe this New Year's Eve, or 74. But still sounds great. I mean, for his age, obviously, you can't throw
probably lowered the keys in a couple of songs. Yeah.
But still a lot of fun. I always have a good time when I go to Burton shows. He tells some little stories in between. And actually, a couple of years ago for his birthday, he played a homecoming show in Winnipeg, and he actually did a whole bunch of like deep cuts, like stuff that hadn't been done live like ever or something. So he still has a few tricks up his sleeve. I wish I was at that show.
That's very cool. Wow. Is there anything going on with the lawsuits and all that's the dirty business with the name and everything? What do you think that Randy and Burton will ever get the name back and be able to tour under the Guess Who moniker?
I don't think they'll tour under that name. I'm pretty sure they won't. They won't do that.
Yeah.
I mean Burton won't do it, and if he ends up even owning 50% of it with Randy, I don't think he'll let Randy do it. Randy would do it for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he's touring right now as Bachman Turner Overdrive, and he's the only guy in the band.
Yeah, I guess, because Fred Turner's gone, right?
No, he's around. He's just
Is he?
retired. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and he's been very vocal when people ask him like that he's not doing the tour at all. Meanwhile, there's these BTO shows where Randy actually tells the audience, Fred couldn't be here tonight, but he's coming soon. He's going to join the tour
No, I'm
soon.
not.
Like, no, he's not. He really shouldn't say that.
Wow, that's funny.
But regarding the lawsuit, if you want to get into that,
yeah, I mean, it's insane that band's touring like that. But
a lot of people have strong opinions of it. Both ways. Is Gary Peterson allowed to make a living? And you can go back and forth. But part of the main part of the lawsuit that Burton and Randy have launched is because that version of the Guess Who, they kind of promote themselves as being the classic Guess Who. So, for their concerts, when they tour, and they do play a lot in the States, they do cruise ships and they do state fairs and stuff like that. You'll hear the voice of Burton singing American Woman on the radio commercial, and you hear Randy's guitar, and then, tonight, the Guess Who, and of course, neither of those guys are going to be there. And a lot of people get duped.
Well, that is being duped.
They also do a thing, which is also, maybe it's not a legal issue, but I think it's really not cool. If it's like, the 50th anniversary of the Wheatfield Soul album or something, so on the current Guess Who, on their like social media, they'll post a photo like of that album and say, oh, it was 50 years ago, and we still look back with such fondness of when we did this, and they're really making it seem like they're the guys on that record when the drummer is the only one on that record. So they do stuff like that a lot, and they changed all of the streaming platforms, like on Spotify and stuff, so that if you look up the So Long Bannatyne album and Number 10 and all those, the band picture that you see is the current guys. So they're really making it seem like they've, like they're the originals or something. And, which I don't think it's a coincidence that group never plays up in Canada, because I think they couldn't get away with it. They play in the States where, they're able to get away with it.
There's ways to do that professionally and respectfully. Like, for instance, you look at what Dead and Company does.
Sure.
It's Dead and Company. They're not calling themselves the Grateful Dead.
Sure.
Yeah. The songs of the Guess Who, or
Gary Peterson's tribute to the Guess Who. No problem.
Gary Peterson's Guess Who.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
no problem. And I don't think Burton would have a problem with that. It's more them not only saying that they're the Guess Who, they're saying that they're the Guess Who did all those records. That they're responsible for that. I mean, I follow them on social media, so I see it all the time. They put up a little clip of Share the Land. They go, hope this brings back as many memories for you guys as it does for us when we recorded it.
Yeah. Oh, that's bad. I don't know.
And there's lots of footage on YouTube. You can see the current Guess Who, what they're like on stage, and yikes.
Where does that? Do you know what the status of that lawsuit is now? Is it a cease and desist or anything? Or
I don't know how much I can say publicly about it. They're not giving out without a fight. The guy who wrote the first book about the Guess Who, John Einerson, when the lawsuit first kind of came public, he said that he doubted that Gary and Jim Cale, who co-owned the name The Guess Who, he said he doubted that they would have enough money to fight this thing in court, and that it would probably get dismissed or get settled, which I was kind of surprised, and I was, kind of hope that Jim Cale has a little bit of money put aside, but maybe not.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Or you think you'd find a lawyer who would do that pro bono just because it's it's kind of a big case profile.
Well, it was filed in L.A.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it had to be filed in the States, because that's where the duplicity is happening when they tour the States. Like I said, they don't really play up here very often, if at all.
Well, I hope Burton and Randy are somewhat successful in that and come up with some kind of a respectful agreement at least.
Well, I think it was in 2022 that Gary Peterson missed a whole bunch of tour dates. Like, I don't know if he played with them at all they had a substitute drummer. So that means there was no original members.
Wow. Go see the roadie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unbelievable. We get some comments here. Burton is the most active musician I've ever seen on Facebook. I don't a big Facebook guy, but I should look him up and see. He posts pretty regularly, eh?
All the time. He'll post just favorite old records of his and old comic
Oh,
books that he
cool.
grew up and baseball cards. And yeah, he's very active on Facebook.
Really?
He's very active.
That's pretty cool. Where does he live in Winnipeg now, or is he Toronto, or?
He lives in Moose Jaw.
Really? Interesting.
He ran back to Saskatoon.
Whoever would have thought that? That's crazy.
Yeah, he's been there for a few years now. He lived in LA for like a really long time. And then
when I was in college, I went to school with a woman who was married to a musician. His name was Bill King, and he was playing. He did a bit of he had a stint in Lighthouse for a while. Then he was putting a band together, and they got picked up by Columbia, and they got moved to LA, and they got down there to record their album. In those days, the record company pay your expenses and everything, and they put them up in apartments and whatever, and said, "Don't do anything. We don't want you playing anywhere. You're just going to come in, record your album." And at the same time, Burton Cummings was in LA recording his first solo album, the Stand Tall album, and he ended up staying with them. And she was sending letters back, going, "Burton Cummings is staying with us."
Sure.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Piccolina the Cat. Hi, Glenn and Robert. I heard from many the latest album from the Guess Who is great, but there are no original members. Is that good or bad? I have never heard it.
Well, the Gary Peterson is on the latest Guess Who album, so there's one original member. So the drummer.
And they do all original songs?
Yeah, they're all new songs. I've heard it. I've heard it a few times. Doesn't sound like anything that the Guess Who kind of ever did. A couple of songs sound maybe a little bit like America. And then some of it is kind of psychedelic and jammy and stuff. But if you had it on and I didn't tell you who it was, there's no way you would guess that it was the Guess Who.
Wow. The new Guess album is Prague, LOL. My favorite Guess Who album is Canned Wheat.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. I agree. Get those LPs reissued. Michael Nolan's another guy's a great channel. I don't know if you're familiar with him, Robert. It's The Bottom Line. I want that box set. Step aside, Larry. Howdy there, Michael. Oh, that's somebody saying hi to Michael Nolan. Hi, James. Hello, Michael. We got Sweet, Sweet, Good CD by Burton Cummings. Save My Soul. Great song. That is great. Hi, Knucklehead. We've got a lot of people. Fred was supposed to be on the new tour, but must be suffering from health issues.
He's retired. He's happily retired. I know two separate people in Winnipeg who personally know Fred, and these are the two who asked him, like, "Are you really going out on tour with Bachman Turner Overdrive?" And Fred just kind of like laughs and says, "I don't do that anymore. Like I'm happily retired." I've heard there's a certain coffee shop in Winnipeg. I think like every Tuesday morning or something, Fred goes there and meets all of his old buddies and they have coffee, and that's his life. He's
well, hopefully he put a few bucks away, and
yeah, probably. And he's even I think a couple years older than Randy, so to go back out on the road and that kind of grind, he hasn't really played live in quite a few years, I believe.
Yeah, that wouldn't be easy.
Yeah, he's happily retired. And
yeah. Is how old's Randy? Is he older than Burton?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like 6 years older maybe or something.
Wow, so he'd be like, he's 80.
I think he might be turning 80 this year.
Holy crap.
Or 79. He's close.
That's crazy. I think 77. Burton and I share a birthday, December 31st. They were promoted as a classic Guess Who on Spotify. Bloody thieves.
Okay, there you go. So Michael is seeing exactly what I'm saying, that they're, guys who are too young to have been on those albums are making it seem as if they were.
I think they changed the Spotify page and took off the fake Guess Who new album and put their picture down and put up one of the classic lineup.
Yeah, so that only happened. Okay, here we go. Over to you, Michael.
Yep, James, they did. Only when busted, though.
Yeah, so that was part of the, I think, pressure from the lawsuit that they did do that. That is true. But for a long time, they were acting as if they're on those records.
LA is a disaster now. I'd gladly live in Moose Jaw over that hellhole. I'd never been to LA. Amen to that, James. Randy is currently 80. Wow.
There you go.
Okay. Can we talk? How much can we talk about your new upcoming project?
Yeah. Let's.
So, do you want to tell the folks what your subject matter is? This is pretty exciting. I think this is big news.
Yeah, I'm really happy with this one. I'm happy with them all, but
Yeah. This is like 7 degrees of separation from you to the boss.
Right. So my new book is about Little Steven Van Zant, and I just submitted the completed manuscript to my publisher yesterday. So we're gonna have a few months of going back and forth and proofreading and editing and dragging the thing around. But I'm hoping it'll be out maybe September, October. But it's the same kind of idea. I look at all of his albums, the things that he produced for other people. There's a little chapter on Sopranos, really going in deep. And I was able to interview Steven twice for it, which was great. The first interview was like 2 hours and 10 minutes, and then we did a follow-up a few weeks later, and that conversation was 90 minutes. So a lot of information from him and a lot of good times talking about stuff. And I've interviewed now, I think it's 34 or 35 people for this book. So
Wow.
a lot of current band members, a lot of ex-band members, a couple of the roadies from back in the day. Just the other day, I got some answers back from Mr. Gary U.S. Bonds, which was really exciting for me.
That is very exciting.
So this book has a lot of input from a lot of different people, but once I was able to add those quotes from Steven, it really changed the flavor or just the feel of the book. Previously it's like me doing my usual talking about the albums, then maybe I got some comments from the old trombone player and the old percussionist and keyboard guy, and then you get a really big quote from Steven about it. So it makes it almost semi kind of like authorized because he's giving a lot.
Well, that's what I was wondering. How authorized is it?
Well, he's not asking to approve it before it comes out, or at least he hasn't. Maybe I shouldn't give him any ideas in case he's watching. But he just keeps. Any of the times I've talked to him, he's like, anything you need. You have as much time. I think our first interview started with him sitting down saying, "You have as much time as you need. I cleared my day for you."
Oh, well, that's very cool, eh?
So the other really great thing was that a woman that used to work for him in the 80s and 90s, she was I guess an assistant engineer, helped on some production, played some keyboards with him. She gave me like 40 behind the scenes photos that nobody's ever seen. Like she hadn't seen these things in decades, and she just gave them all to me, and I told Steven about it, and he's like, yeah, use whatever you want, I don't care. Like, go for it.
Wow.
And they're really, really, like there's a photo of the recording of the first Little Steven album, and it's the drummer and the bass player who recorded that album, but I've never seen a picture of them actually recording the album, and that's Gary Talent and Max Weinberg from the E Street Band.
Oh, really?
They're the rhythm section on 8 of the 10 songs on the first album. So a picture of them actually in the studio doing it, it's pretty cool for me.
That is very cool. How did you originally get to Little Steven? How did you arrive at doing Little Steven? Like, what was your?
Well,
it's an odd one, kind of thinking, because right away he's synonymous with the E Street Band, and I mean, I know he has a very successful career as a musician on his own outside of the band, but you don't think of him that way. Like when you say Little Steven, you think Bruce. Right?
Well, I don't.
Oh, really?
I've been a big Little Steven is a big hero of mine for ever since he went solo. I was totally into his solo stuff. I'm way more into Steven than I'm into Bruce. That's for sure.
Wow.
So yeah, I've been like close to his kind of world for a long time. I used to submit stuff to a fanzine that a friend in New Jersey used to publish, and I'd met Steven backstage occasionally throughout the years and would kind of, you know, pepper him with little, you know, questions or stuff like that he would, you know, wonder why does this guy know so much, you know, about me. So yeah, I've been a Steven guy for one of my best friends. Just recently we were having a conversation about this project, and he said, you know, your whole life has kind of led you to writing this book, because like you've always been the Little Steven guy, so now you're doing it, and it's true, kind of.
Yeah.
So yeah, always been. Yeah, I'm a real big Steven guy.
That's awesome. Wow. I got a lot of respect for the man. He's done some great stuff. I don't think I own a Little Steven album. I might need to correct that.
Men Without Women from 1982. Start with the first album.
Yeah.
Greatest album of all time.
Really? Wow. Well, you've never turned me on to a bad record yet, so
There you go.
yeah, I will definitely look for that for sure. That's good. It's nice that he was so accommodating.
Yeah, he was great. He was really, really good, and we had a good time too, because he kind of like laughs a lot, and there's definitely many moments where he would just say, "How the hell do you know that?" And or he was even asking me questions about his career. Well, what was the B side on that 12-inch? And then I would tell him, he goes, "Huh, all right." So he's very animated, and yeah, he laughs a lot, and he's in good spirits.
Who
We
else
had a
did
lot.
you work with? But I know Southside Johnny. He wrote I don't want to go home, right?
He wrote a lot on the first 3 Southside Johnny albums, and he produced those records too.
Yeah.
And he plays guitar and does a lot of singing, like a lot of the kind of harmony vocals he does with Bruce. He does
Yeah.
that on those first 3 Southside Johnny records.
Yeah. Do you get into any of the? I am a Bruce fan. Do you get into any of his career with Bruce, or are you just trying to stay away from that in the book? Or
You know, you can't really get away from it. They're so linked. So there's, I think the second chapter in the book is called Southside Springsteen 70s.
yeah,
So it kind of covers all that. It covers him first joining the E Street Band, not in as much detail as I go into his own albums, but it is one pretty lengthy chapter where I'm able to talk about Darkness on the Edge of Town, and I talk about the 3 Southside records. And because Steven was playing with them a lot at the time, he was also managing them. So in between E Street Band shows, if they had a few days off, Steven would like fly to wherever the Jukes were, and he would play a show with them and sort of help them, you know, run that band. So a lot of that stuff's linked. And then later on, the Gary U.S. Bonds records that he produced, those are really also really linked with The River and with his first album. They're all kind of overlap, different sessions. So you can't really get away from, you know, the Springsteen thing. Also on the Born in USA tour in 84, 85, even though Steven had left the band, he rejoined the band 10 times, like 10 different concerts to just come out for the encores and
I didn't know that.
And, you know, play a few songs. So I kind of got to mention all those things too.
Yeah. Did you see Little Steven often live on his own?
He doesn't he doesn't come up to Canada that much. His first time here was in 83. He did 2 shows at the El Macombo. I think I was too young to go, or I wasn't quite into
in Alberta back then, so I wouldn't even have known about it.
One of the shows was an hour of it was broadcast on Chum FM. You can hear the audio of that on YouTube for sure. It's great. I mean, I used to play that as if it was like a live album of Little Steven. But he was here in 84, and I saw that. And 87, he opened for U2. I saw that, even though it was only like
I didn't know that.
40-minute show or something. It was very short. And then recently, he's like gotten his band back together, and he's kind of restarted his solo career in 2017. So he's been here a couple times since then, and you know, of course, I've gone. It's a little different. It's a bigger band, real high energy R&B, big horn section. You know, 3 chicks off to the side doing all these, you know, real soulful backing vocals and stuff like that. Yeah, there's probably like 15 or 18 people in the band or something. It's
wow,
a huge sound, and they play long too. He does like 2 hours easy, 2.5 hours of Southside songs and songs that he wrote for other people, and all his songs and new songs that he's written. They're really great shows, and he's put out a live Blu-ray and a live album for each of those tours. So there's a one called Soulfire Live.
I've
And
been meaning to get that, actually. That's the one that really is on my radar. I've
yeah,
never
it's
picked it
great.
up.
It's a lot of fun. It really covers his whole career. Like he plays
Yeah,
stuff from every album. So that's a good overview. That's a good place to start, probably.
yeah, that's awesome. How, here's a question that I was gonna ask once my, mouse stops freezing. Any Sopranos talk?
Between me and Steven?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. I was surprised. He said that he's actually never watched the whole show.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But yeah, we talked a little bit about it. I told him about some of his songs that were in an episode of Sopranos, and he wasn't aware of that, or he didn't remember it. So we talked about it a little bit, but of what he's seen of Sopranos, he still thinks it's like one of the most unique and like greatest shows ever on
Well,
television. So he's not wrong there. But
not wrong.
when he told me that he hasn't seen the entire show, I tried to gently suggest that you might want to check it out. It's pretty good.
Do you know how he got involved in that? I mean, it was
Sure. He by chance, totally by chance, he was inducting the Rascals into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame while around the time that David Chase, who created The Sopranos, was looking for cast members, and he just saw Steven do this very funny and kind of bit of an Italian persona kind of induction for the Rascals, and reached out to him after that he just liked his energy, and he just kind of liked the way that he talked about the Rascals, and so that was it. If he hadn't been flipping channels and landed on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame at that right at that moment,
that's crazy.
Steven never would have been on the show.
Wow. I mean, really a life changer for him.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure it lined the pocketbooks pretty well. Even now with the, you can watch it on whatever, Netflix and whatever.
It's a great show. It stands up. I mean, I rewatched the whole thing while I was writing the book just so I could look for any like little kind of details that I might want to, throw in the book, and it still stands up. It's a great show, no doubt about it.
That is awesome. Douglas wants to know if you listen to Little Steven's Underground Garage.
I do. I don't hear it every week probably as much as I should, but I listened to it a lot when it first came out, like 20 years ago or so. I was pretty faithful then. It was on Q107 up here.
Oh yeah, it was before it went to
I think every Sunday night.
Yeah.
So yeah, I used to listen to it a lot, and now I check in every now and again. He's pretty busy these days between different interviews and stuff. You could stay on YouTube, probably for 2 days straight just watching different interviews that he's done and stuff, which is wild for me because in the 80s, I would tell people that I love Little Steven, and they would say, "Oh, he's one of the best guitar players that ever came out of Texas." And then you realize that they think I'm talking about the other guy.
That's excellent. Wow, that's just I'm just in awe that you're doing this book. It's incredible. And you think it'll be published in the fall, or?
Well, the E Street Band are here in November, so I really want to be able to give Steven a copy in November when they're here.
Will you get a pass for that show?
Well, hopefully the book will be my pass. So we'll see. So that's sort of my, that's why I say September, October, but I'm really hoping for, November. I don't know when they're here exactly, November 11th or something.
Have you seen Bruce and the E Street Band a few times, or?
A few times, definitely not as many as most of my friends who are big.
Yeah, some people are crazy. Yeah.
I don't know how many times I've seen Bruce, maybe like 20 or 15.
Oh wow, I'm about 10 or 12. Okay, I kind of lose track, but my first one was the River Tour in 1980 at Maple Gardens.
Well, that's a good one.
Yeah, it was great.
If you're gonna see one, that's River's probably my favorite time period.
Yeah, yeah. Me, I'm Dark and Sunny Edge of Town's my favorite album, but the River would be up there too. Yeah, that whole period is 78 to 80 is pretty good.
Sure. Yeah.
I love the when Bruce broke up the E Street Band and then put out those albums, Human Touch or whatever those ones, and then he when he put the band back together in '99, and they did the tour. They played ACC twice. I went to both those shows. They were my favorite.
Oh, May 2000. Yeah, I think that was May 2nd and 3rd. I was at both of those. I was backstage with Steven at both of those.
Really?
And I think on the day of the second show, we were actually at his hotel.
Wow.
So
those shows were like phenomenally good.
I've always been looking for like a video bootleg of the first night, because I had okay, maybe this is too long a story. I had hand painted the original Disciples of Soul band. Had these long trench coats, these black leather dusters with Disciples of Soul on the back, kind of like a Hell's Angels kind of logo. So back in the day, I painted that Disciples of Soul on the back of like jean jackets for all my friends.
Oh, wow.
So I was wearing one of those in the first night of that E Street Band, those shows in Toronto. And backstage, Steven, he actually bent me over and wrote, because it just says Disciples of Soul. He bent me over, and on the shoulders he wrote Little Steven and.
Really?
So that was before the show, and then at one point,
still have the jacket?
Sure, I showed it to him just when we were talking the other day. I held it up. I'll send you a photo of that.
That would be cool.
But during the concert, at one point, I held it up back then, and he pointed from the stage because he could see us. I was only about 10 rows back or so. And I've always wanted to get a little clip. And I think I even have it written down what song it occurred in, that he definitely saw me in the audience and pointed at me holding up this jacket. But I don't know if that's out there. It's got to be out there.
So I had bootleg copies of both those shows on, but they were on I think they were on VHS. I don't even think they were on CD then, or a disc.
I have them both on CD, but
yeah, no, I had the video of them, the bootleg video of both those shows.
Okay, so that means
it's around.
Yeah, right.
If you go to local record shows or something like that, there's always those guys selling the bootleg videos. They got them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although, to be honest, having Steven point at me 20 feet away, I don't know why it's so thrilling when I just spent, 40 minutes with him backstage talking.
Yeah,
and he's like,
yeah. And again, I missed it. How did you originally connect with him?
Well, he had a personal assistant at the time who I was very, very close with. And
how would you have met her? Like she from Toronto or from the area or something? Or
no, she was from New Jersey originally, and then she worked in New York. She worked for him. Okay. And I just got to know, there wasn't that many huge Little Steven fans back in '86 or whatever. So we just kind of became pen pals, and then we met in Asbury Park in '87 for the first time in person after writing letters and phone calls back then. So I just knew her since really like probably '86.
Oh, that's very cool.
So once she started working for him, then any of the time, when the E Street Band would come up here, she would arrange for me to come back and say hi to him.
That is very cool.
I was able to, when Springsteen, I don't know what year it was now, but Springsteen played like the Sky Dome on the Rising tour or Wrecking Ball tour. Giant show at the Sky Dome in the summer with the roof open and stuff, I don't know, like 80,000 people or something. And I was able to introduce my girlfriend, who's my wife now, to Steven backstage. That was like a really big thrill for me.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you ever get to meet Bruce?
I met Bruce once years ago when I was working at Sam the Record Man. I helped him shop for about an hour and a half.
Really?
Yeah.
The flagships? Did you work the flagship store down on Yonge Street?
Yeah, 347 Yonge, baby.
No way.
Yeah, when a celebrity. Yeah. Oh, sure. Cathedral.
I didn't know you worked there. Wow.
Yeah, when a
celebrity until the end, or
no, I left for Tower Records.
Okay.
Shortly before the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bruce had played Massey Hall on the Tom Joad tour.
That's right. I tried to get tickets for that.
So the next day he came into Sam's to shop.
Really?
So my manager went and grabbed me right away because when it's kind of standard. We did the same thing at Tower Records. If a celebrity comes in, you give them a clerk to just be with and hold their basket, just to
Yeah.
help their shopping experience.
Yeah.
So when Bruce came in, my manager, luckily at the time, thought of me, and he came in and grabbed me right away. So yeah, the whole time Bruce was just shopping and browsing, and I'm holding a basket, and he's just throwing CDs in, and I was able to talk to him very casually,
Yeah.
as much as I wanted. When
Well, they're
that's
human beings, right? You got to kind of talk to them like they're normal human
Sure,
beings. It's not like you
sure.
can't be a fanboy. Yeah.
Well, when that Sam's closed, a lot of the articles that you can read about the store being torn down, they mention that Bruce signed a portion of the wall, and I think that piece of the wall they put up for auction for charity or something. I was standing right beside him when he signed that.
Oh,
So
really?
even for years later, when I went into Sam's and I would see that part of the wall that he signed, and remember being right with him when he signed it.
That is so cool.
Yeah,
I
that was a great experience.
I was living on Wood Street at that time in an apartment. You know where Wood Street is, right by Maple Leaf Gardens.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were living in an apartment on Wood Street, and the night of that show, the Ghost of Tom Joad show at Massey Hall, I said to my wife Lynn, I said, I gotta go down to Massey Hall. We didn't have really a pot to piss in, but I found $100, and I went, I'm going down there, and I'm going to stand there and try and get a scalper's ticket for $100. No way I could get one.
Right.
They were going for over that, and I never got to go. But I was stood in front of Massey Hall for 2 hours trying to get into that show.
Well, it was a great show, Glenn.
Oh, you went?
Oh, sure.
Damn. Oh, sure.
I really shouldn't tell you this, but I went with a girlfriend at the time who hated it.
Really?
And I knew she would hate it, and I said, "You don't have to come to this." And she was of the belief that couples should do everything together and you should always be together and stuff. I was like, "But you don't like his music. You don't like Springsteen. Why would you?" And this isn't going to even sound like the stuff that like if she did like Dancing in the Dark or something, it's not going to sound like that when he's coming out with just a 12-string acoustic.
Exactly.
So no, she kind of forced me to take her, and I knew she was going to hate it. And boy, I was right. She complained throughout the whole thing. I much would have rather if you were my date.
Yeah, I would have much rather that too. Oh man. Wow. That's great that you got to see that. Bruce at Massey Hall would have been something else. I just saw Dylan at Massey Hall in October. So
Me too.
Did you go to that show too?
I think I was at the first night and you were at the second, or vice
Oh
versa.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was a big thrill to see him there.
Oh, huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge. I mean, really important.
In the last 6 months, I secured a ticket stub that's actually in mint condition from his show in 1965 at Massey Hall.
Oh,
I have it framed on my wall. I swear to God. I mean, how many people would have sat in Massey Hall in 1965? 2,500 people?
Yeah. No.
How many of those ticket stubs would be around? I would not be surprised if I have the only one in existence.
Wow, that's very cool.
Yeah. I framed it, and it's sitting up a proud possession. I mean,
Nice.
I know we're both huge Dylan fans, so
yeah,
he's number one for me. That's
sure.
Nobody better. Yeah. You're you got favorite Dylan albums? Or
a few years ago, I gave myself a challenge to rank my top 10 Dylan albums, or even just 10 great, 10, maybe not even ranking them, but just 10 of my favorite Dylan albums. And I was able to do it, except there's like 17 or 18 albums on that list.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So my top 10 list is has 17 albums on it.
What's number one?
I couldn't get it down to 10, so I don't know. I mean, all the usual ones I love.
Yeah. Blonde on Blonde is for me is
sure. But I'm also like Infidels is one of my all-time favorites.
Great.
That one's really high for me. Street Legal is really,
I saw that tour in '78, the Street Legal tour at Maple Leaf Gardens.
I mean, you can't go wrong.
I saw both Rolling Thunder shows at Maple Leaf Gardens too.
Right. Nice.
Which was they were two of my favorite concert moments.
Sure.
Those nights were amazing. Yeah. How do you rate the latest album, The Rough and Rowdy Ways? Because I think it is absolutely incredible. I love it.
Yeah. It's for his age, for him to be putting out something still kind of so challenging and interesting, and still very creative, just fantastic. And I was so happy that he did so much of it at the recent Massey Hall
Yeah,
show.
it was great. Yeah,
Like he's not just trotting out all the hits, which is
yeah.
one of the things that I always love about him, because his albums are so great.
Hmm.
I always want him to do new stuff. I would love it if he didn't do any of the hits,
Yeah,
just do all.
yeah. He did. He kept it really to a minimum. I mean, really, only got what was the biggest hit he did? I don't even know if there was a hit. Uh, when you think about it, there was, got to serve somebody, and when I paint my masterpiece, they were probably about the
Maybe.
classic old songs that he did.
But then getting to hear him do Every Grain of Sand.
Oh, I was just gonna say, magical moment of me ever seeing Dylan was playing the harmonica at the end of that.
See, on the night that I saw, he didn't play harmonica on it.
Oh, because I have a buddy who just saw him in Florida and said he didn't play harmonica either.
It was on the piano. I couldn't tell what it was, even though I had pretty good seat in the first balcony. But I knew there was something on top of the piano, and I actually even thought it might be a cell phone or something. I couldn't quite make it out. And at one point, he brought it a little closer to himself, and then he kind of put it back. And it was only then that I kind of clued in that it was a harmonica. And he didn't play it at all. And then a few days later, I was able to hear the audio from your show on YouTube. And I heard that he played it. So even that shows that in the moment, he's kind of going with his gut, or going with how he feels in the moment. Not everything is rehearsed, and not everything is like perfectly staged. I used to joke all the time. It's like if you see, I don't know, like Elton John in Toronto, and then you see him in Vancouver a week later, it's like you're seeing a movie in a different city, and that's not something against Elton John.
They say the same thing, the same jibber jabber between every song. It's the same story. It's like it's a script.
Yeah, you might as well just be. Yeah, it's like seeing a movie in a different city. It's not going to be any different. So here's Dylan, and night to night, like, and in that moment, and I like the fact that I saw him do that.
Mm-hmm.
I actually like the fact that I saw him do that more than if he had just played it.
Yeah.
Because in that moment, it's like I saw him reach for it and think about it and then put it back again. Yeah. So what's going on in that moment?
Going to bed.
I just wants to go home. I don't know.
I don't know. I hope he's got another album in him. You hear rumors that maybe something else is coming out this year. So,
well, between the bootleg series and the Shadow Kingdom thing that he did during
that was great too.
Lockdown, he's still putting out stuff that I think has a lot of value. The bootleg series is like an embarrassment of riches. How much material he puts out on that. It's amazing.
Every other artist who ever lived to shame that he
easily
he has that catalog of music that's he didn't even want to release.
Yeah, he's got box sets of stuff that he left off or never put out that's better than some people's whole careers.
You mentioned the Infidels album. I mean, he left off Blind Willie McTell, and I mean,
yeah, sure. There's tons of those examples, and I talked to Steven about that actually, because on the first bootleg series, there's it's not Empire Burlesque related. There's an alternate take of When the Night Comes Falling from the Sky that Steven plays on.
Oh wow!
So that's on Bootleg Series Volume 1, and then the most recent bootleg series that they put out, the Springtime in New York.
Yeah, great series.
There's two more versions of that song, and Steven's on both of those.
I didn't know that.
So I asked him about that, and Arthur Baker, who kind of co-produced or remixed Empire Burlesque, and he also produced like the Sun City album with Steven and stuff. So I was able to talk to both those guys about the Dylan sessions, and Steven had some really great information about the Dylan sessions that, since he played on, I figure it's game that I could put it in my book.
So so you got it's in the book. We'll have to wait to hear those stories then.
Right.
Read about them. Wow, that would be interesting.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff.
Who's Little Steven a fan of? My favorite question to a musician will always be, what are you listening to right now?
Well, check out his radio show. I mean, he plays tons of new bands all the time. He just kind of hosted a bit of a showcase in Vegas a couple nights ago which were bands because he has his own record label as well called Wicked
Mhm.
Cool Records, and he's got all kinds of bands. He's got there's an all girl group from Norway, um, the Cocktail Slippers. Is that them?
Oh,
Yeah, he's got all these bands, and he does help produce and write for them. So he works with a lot of like relatively younger artists all the time.
wow, that's pretty cool. Wow. What are you listening to these days?
Well, unfortunately, when I'm writing a book, I don't get to listen to too much except for that artist. Now that the Little Steven book is kind of put away, or at least I gotta wait probably a few weeks till the publishers rip it all apart. So now I'm able to go back to some stuff. But this is a new release that just came out. I was really looking forward to it. Alice Coltrane.
Oh, I saw that you had that, and I am a huge fan.
Yeah, this is killer. It's way better than even I could have imagined.
I am waiting to buy. I want to buy the vinyl, but on Amazon, how much you selling the vinyl for in your store?
I'm still waiting on it. I don't have the vinyl.
Oh, $70 on Amazon.
Is
And
it a
it's
double or a triple?
I'm assuming it's a double. I know, but maybe it's a triple because the CD is $35 and it's a double CD.
Yeah. And these tracks are kind of long, so it might be a triple.
That would be interesting. I should check that out because I'm dying to get it. I'm such a big fan.
It's so good.
I only have this on CD, The Journey to Satch and
Right.
Dananda. My favorite jazz album of all time. I
Wow.
love this album.
Well, this is really great because the first disc is really meditative,
Mm-hmm.
and very calming and very exploratory, which I love that kind of stuff. And then
Yeah.
the second disc is like they bring the noise.
Really?
She switches from harp to piano, and you got both Pharoah Saunders and Archie Shepp are on sax.
Oh, wow.
So the first disc is like really gentle, easygoing stuff. The second disc is just like screaming, like these
Really?
two sax guys just screaming at each other, and Alice is just pounding the piano. So that each disc is a very different feel and different vibe to them. Yeah, it's great. It's already on my top 10 list. What's that?
You only have the CD available.
Yeah, right now it's just the CD.
Yeah. Is that what you have it on, a CD?
Yeah, that's a CD.
One? Yeah. This one too is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you hear the thing that came out a few years ago? It was at one point she moved to like a commune. It was like a religious retreat, and she was putting out music on like these cassettes. So they took a bunch of that stuff and they put it out on a CD. It was on David Byrne's label, Luca Bop.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all this real spiritual, religious kind of music.
Is it instrumental or is it?
There's some chanting.
Yeah.
There's some chanting. It's amazing. That's my favorite Alice album.
Really? What's that called? You know?
It's got some really long title. The cover of it is really colorful. It's her and all the members of this religious commune all standing. Probably came out.
Okay, I think I've seen that. Yeah, the big group of people. Yeah, okay, I've seen that album.
It's amazing. It's very moving.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I know you're a fan of this album because I saw you show your Instagram page one day, and fantastic.
Yeah, that's my.
To find this.
That's yeah, you're right. And I've had people tell me that it was never ever issued on CD, which of course is not true. I have it on CD.
Oh, do you?
Sure.
Wow.
But that's one of my favorite Santana albums of all time for sure.
Oh, it's an amazing album. Fantastic. It took me so long to find it. Here's Richard Willis. Yes. Unfortunately, Robert and I are sitting in north of the border, but that Alice Coltrane is only a 2 LP and $40 on Amazon US. So that's why it's $70 up here. That's about it with the exchange. It would be about that much, but I'm kind of waiting for it to drop down a little bit. But I got to order the CD.
All right, you'll love it.
Yeah, that's incredible. I was we're talking about asking musicians and stuff. Larry Graves, the Canadian stud muffin, has a great channel on YouTube. One of the original YouTubers, pretty much. And Larry and I do a lot of stuff together. And we were doing a live chat one day, and we had somehow through Facebook, because I think we both are big fans of Arthur Brown. You know, Crazy World Arthur Brown.
Of course.
Yeah, we're both Arthur Brown fans, and I think we both had promoted his records on our channels, and Arthur responded to Larry's Facebook page, and then we're doing a live chat, and Larry says, "I got a special guest," and Arthur Brown came on with us and chatted with us for a while. I got to ask him all kinds of questions. He's just, I mean, the stories that man can tell.
Sure.
But I asked him again, like, what are you listening to? And he turns me on to this jazz band from London called The Comet Is Coming. You ever heard of these guys?
No.
They're crazy. It's just saxophone, synthesizer, and drums. They're incredible. They've got about 3-4 albums out. Amazing stuff.
All right. I wrote it down. Noted.
Yeah. I'm hoping they'll come back to Toronto sometime. I know they've been here before I was aware of them, but yeah, very cool. I'm also on a big kick now with some of the old British folk stuff, like Bert Jansch and John Redbourne. Do you ever listen to this stuff?
Right. I know some of it, but not really well. No.
Oh my God, these guys can play good. And they play together. The album, the Bert and John's, there's a CD called Bert and John, and this album is a double album. It's just incredible acoustic guitar playing and unbelievable. Right. Yeah. And I saw, I was reading up on you today, and you mentioned a little blurb about something being a fan of classical Indian music, which I am too.
Sure.
I didn't know that. So I picked up this Anushka Shankar album. I bought it off of Amazon warehouse sale, really cheap, like $20 or something. And it's a live album called Between Us, and she's playing with an orchestra. It's absolutely an incredible record. So beautiful.
Huh.
Yeah.
I have like 5 or 6 of her CDs, and I've never seen that one. I would have to.
I've only seen it on vinyl. It's called Between Us. It's absolutely beautiful. Recorded live somewhere. I'm not sure where. But
I saw her live a few years ago in Toronto, and it was absolutely incredible. I think I had second or third row, so I was really close, and it was amazing because I think that's the only Indian classical concert I've ever seen. But I've been into the music for quite a while, and I have quite a bit of it here, and I played it at home quite often.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of my go-tos for a Sunday morning kind of thing with tea with my wife. But seeing Anushka was like a dream for me because I was actually, kind of close to history considering who.
Yeah. Well, I got to see Ravi. I had a friend, Greg Godovitz from Gatto.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, Greg we hung out quite a bit in the 90s, and he called me one night and said, "I got tickets to see Ravi Shankar at Roy Thompson Hall. Do you want to go?" So we went to the show, and Anushka opened up. She was just kind of, so got to see her and her dad.
Wow.
It was incredible. Incredible.
After Ravi passed away, she had an album. It might actually be called like In Between Us or something, but it's a studio album, and as a tribute to their dad passing away, her and her sister Nora Jones, they do a couple of songs together.
Oh, that's a great album. I have that.
Yeah. Or Traces of You or something.
Traces of You. Yeah. Beautiful record.
Yeah. Seeing Anushka was a real highlight for me.
She's an amazing musician. Really is.
I love her.
She really I think she would be the one that you could safely say if you wanted to introduce somebody to that music, because she kind of tries to bring a bit of a, I don't know, North American feel sometimes into the music.
Sure.
Like it's just not always traditional. And she's an amazing, one of my favorite artists for sure. Yeah.
So here's one of my picks for you. If we were still at Shepherd, I'd be telling you about this one. I've told so many people about this one at my current store that I'm sure I've sold a lot of records for this guy. He's from Oakland, California.
Who is it?
His name is Fantastic Negrito.
Okay, sorry. Let me reach for a pen. His name is Fantastic Negrito.
Negrito, yeah.
I'm writing that one down.
This is his first album called The Last Days of Oakland. And when I play this in my store, everyone stops and just says, "What the heck is that?"
Really?
It won the Grammy for non-traditional blues album.
Wow.
Whatever year this was. It's yeah, it's amazing. The mix of R&B and kind of harder, like stripped down kind of raw funk, and then some like soulful vocals, and it really goes to a lot of different places. When it came out, I didn't know what it was at all. And then I think Mojo magazine gave it like 9 out of 10 stars, and Classic Rock gave it like 4 out of 5 stars or something.
Is
So I got
that a 2024 release or 23 or?
it's a few years old now. Definitely came out before the pandemic. No, he's got like 5 or 6 albums out now. This is just the first one. So this is probably like 2021, maybe. I don't see a year in it anywhere.
Wow.
2016. Oh,
wow. I'm on my way to check that one out after we're finished.
It's really great. There's a lot of I turned so many people onto this record.
That's great. I got a loyal viewer by the name of Roy, and Roy grew up in England back in the 60s and lives in Thailand. And I've never met a man who's got so many stories about record music and whatever. He could just go, I don't know, this man could write a book. Anyway, Roy's here tonight now. So hi, Roy. I was in New Delhi for a short visit to India. The place I stayed, the owner invited me to some great musical shows while I was there. There's a great live music scene going on there. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know what else I pulled here. Anything else? I kind of pulled all my Guess Who albums and stuff. Of course, Bruce.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, the No Nukes show. Legendary.
Yeah.
Yeah, but new, I'm trying to think of what else I bought. New. That's about it. I'm just totally into this Burt Yanch guy. I can't stop listening to him.
This is a new record that just came out by a local Toronto guy, the James Clark Institute.
Really?
This is like kind of adult power pop stuff. So very, kind of Elvis Costello-y.
Oh, wow.
Solo McCartney, kind of maybe a little bit of like a Graham Parker or something like that. Really, or maybe even more so would be like a Nick Lowe or something. But
Yeah.
So very poppy, very upbeat. It's produced by Mo Berg.
Oh, really? Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I was listening to it on my way home today. It's and they play around a lot. They're always doing shows in Toronto and stuff. Really fun, good stuff.
I'll do that. Do you ever listen to Lowest of the Low?
I saw them once at the Horseshoe years ago. That's about it. But it was pretty crazy. It was like people were slam dancing and like throwing each other around. It's probably, I guess it was in the 80s or early 90s.
Oh, yeah, early 90s, probably early 90s. Yeah. I'm a big fan of that band. They're still putting out records and stuff now.
Right.
So Ron Hawkins, great songwriter, great performer.
I had a great time at that show, but I was pretty bruised the next day.
Oh, wow. That's hilarious.
I felt like I was at a Ramones show. It was really high energy right at the front.
My daughter's a photographer. She did some photography for them on their box set that they put out. And so she's coming up. She lives in Florida now. And she's coming up to visit. They're playing at the Danforth Music Hall, I think, on the 15th of April. So we might go to that. Yeah, I just bought tickets to see Elvis Costello. He's playing at Budweiser Stage this summer.
Yeah, Daryl Hall.
With Daryl Hall. My wife's a huge Hall & Oates fan, so
there you go.
She's really excited to see Daryl Hall. The other band I love right now is Tedeschi Trucks. You ever listen to those guys?
Oh, sure. I sell lots of their stuff at my store.
Oh, amazing band.
Yeah.
I saw them last summer, and best live band out there right now. Incredible.
Are they on that new Slash tour that's coming to Toronto? Do you know about that?
No, I'm not sure about that.
Slash has a blues tour that he's doing.
Really?
So at different nights, there's different opening bands. So I'm not sure who is in Toronto. Like when they list the bands, it's deceiving because you'll see like Slash as the headliner, then there's like 8 bands beneath him or something, but only some of those are at each show.
Really?
So Tedeschi and Trucks are part of the tour. I don't know if they're
I
playing
had
at the
seen that on
Toronto show.
Instagram, and I kind of wondered what that was all about.
Yeah, apparently Slash has a blues album coming out.
Oh.
So,
Yeah, I'm not really a Guns N' Roses guy, but that might be interesting.
well, all the opening bands though are authentic blues guys.
Yeah.
Um, who's that really big that young kid, the guitar player?
Both Jimmy
Okay,
Bothwell or
no, Kingfish.
okay.
So it's a lot of like authentic blues guys who are the opening acts on this tour. You just got to check, I guess, depending on what city you live in, who's playing that night. But
Wow.
Tedeschi Trucks might be on at the Toronto show. I'm not 100%.
Wow, that'd be interesting. Yeah. Wow, that'd be really interesting. I mean,
Yeah,
Derek Rock's a great guitar player, and Susan Tedeschi's great too. I mean,
sure.
her album Burn, I forget what it's called, it came out in the 90s. They just had a 25th anniversary reissue of it, her solo album. It's really awesome.
Hmm.
There's Roy saying, thank you, Glenn. I'm meeting up with JT's another guy who has a channel today in Thailand. JT's going to be in Thailand. Wow. Hello, Trish. No, it wasn't Gene Clark. It was James Clark Institute. Gene's another guy. Yeah. I am a Gene Clark fan too.
Sure.
Yeah. No Other. One of the great albums. Yeah. What else is you got anything coming up for a record store day?
I haven't seen the list really too much of what they're sending me. Like I don't pick the product myself anymore.
Oh, okay.
When I was at Shepherd, I was able to do that. Now that they have a guy who seems to know what he's doing, so we just leave it to him, and that's fine. So yeah, I don't know too much of. I know there's a Doors live in Stockholm set that's coming out that I'm interested in myself, but I don't get too excited about that kind of stuff. I'm at a point where there's not too much stuff out there that I don't have that I kind of need. Although, then they put out an Alice Cooper deluxe edition with a bonus live disc, and all of a sudden I'm buying it again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Did you just pick up the $1 Million Babies one, or
Yeah,
that's that?
and I'm waiting on there's a new Waterboys box set that I haven't grabbed yet.
And there's a Rascals box set coming out too.
There's it almost feels like now we're really almost 100% out of the pandemic, because now everyone's touring.
Mm-hmm.
And there's tons of box sets, and everyone's putting out new releases, like people who've just been recording in their home studios. Now they can actually get to real studios and do real albums again. So that's good. That's encouraging.
Yeah, that is encouraging. I tried to get tickets to see Sting at Massey Hall. He's doing 4 shows. And it was almost the same thing as with the Dylan thing. Instantly, after the pre-sale, the tickets were $500 a piece.
Right.
It's just you can't get a ticket. It's just a shame the way things have gone with concerts, and it's crazy. Somebody told me last night. I work for the Belleville Senators, Ottawa's American League team in Belleville, and as an usher, and working. One of the ushers told me last night that they knew somebody who's got some bucks. They paid $13,000 for a ticket for their daughter to go see Taylor Swift.
Wow.
$13,000. I'd want Taylor Swift to come over and make me dinner.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't go to that many shows anymore. If I'm going to a show, I'm trying to see people that I haven't seen multiple times before. Obviously, I break that rule with someone like Dylan.
Me too. Yeah.
But just to go to see someone that I've seen many, many times, I'm really trying to be more selective and see the people that I've always wanted to see. Maybe I haven't had a chance. So this summer I'm seeing Al Di Meola for the first time.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Which is it's an electric
show. He had a heart attack on stage there last year.
He did. Right? Yeah. It was real scary for a couple of days. We didn't know what
playing.
He's at the Sony Center.
Oh, that'd be a great show.
No, you know what? He's at Corner Hall.
Oh, what a beautiful! Have you been there for a concert?
That's where I saw Anushka.
Oh, okay. What a incredible hall that is, eh? The
Yep.
sound.
I knew I wanted to see him. I knew he was coming eventually at some point, and then when I saw that that was the venue, that sealed the deal for me. So yeah, it's a full electric show that he's doing, which I
Wow.
prefer his electric stuff to the
The
acoustic.
acoustics in that theater are just
Yeah, yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful venue. I
yeah.
mean, you could, yeah, absolutely. So I'm really, never had a chance to see him. Great venue, can't go wrong.
Yeah. You know, I'm a big fan of Bela Fleck, the banjo player, and he did a tour with. Well, he's done a couple albums. He just had an album last year that won a Grammy, I think, as we speak, with Zakir Hussain and Edgar Meyer. And I
Yeah,
saw those three guys at Corner Hall at front row seats. It was just the sound, just to hear Zakir Hussain playing the tablas in that place was just
you can't see it where my camera is. There's a Zakir Hussain poster right here.
no way.
That's what this little yellow
One of my
trim is.
favorite musicians.
Oh, absolutely. Sure.
Yeah,
Zakir Hussain is like way up there in that world.
yeah, yeah, incredible. Have you heard that album as we speak?
Yeah, I play it in the store quite often,
Yeah,
actually.
it's a great
Yeah.
record.
Yeah.
I'm going to see Bela in Kingston on next Friday, a week Friday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. That's somebody I would like to write a book about. I've been following that man since like he was 18 years old. I have everything he's ever done. I think I have a pretty encyclopedic knowledge of his. I think if I could ever write a listener's guide, it would be that one.
There you go. Get to it.
Yeah, yeah, you inspire me.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's incredible. Wow. Well, I guess we'll shut her down.
This is good.
This was awesome. I hope one day I get to. I'll try and get into the city one day and come and see you. What did you work? You're there most days. I'll call first to make sure you're going to be there.
Yeah, make sure I'm there. It seems like I'm there every day, although people come in all the time and say, "Oh, I didn't know you still work here. I never see you anymore." I'm like,
Yeah,
"Well, my
I
wife my
have to.
wife says I'm never home, and people at the store say I'm never there, so I don't know where I am." But
Yeah, I always love that you like for a mall store. You always brought in great product. It wasn't like just we're not just going in there to buy the latest pop record. You always made sure there was some deep albums that are great, like Alejandro Escovedo and stuff. I mean, it's just kind of stuff you don't see in mall stores. And
no, yeah, I always kind of have that, kind of what I call the Queen Street sensibility that, it might look like we're in a mall in Etobicoke, but to me, I'm on the corner of like Queen and Bathurst and we're, selling, yeah, Alejandro Escovedo and Fantastic Negrito and,
yeah,
things that are pretty interesting. I like selling the pop stuff too, though, because people buy a lot of it and
oh yeah,
that keeps us going so that we can sell all that other stuff too. I do like to have a balance between the two, but you never forget the kind of connections that you make with people when you turn them on to great music.
hmm yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, that's one of the greatest gifts in the world. Turning each other on to music and talking about music, and especially if you're passionate about it, like we are. It's great. I have a
Yeah.
friend who owns Zap Records in Coburg, Ontario.
Oh, I've been there. Yeah.
Yeah, great store. He's the same though too. I'll tease him like I'll go, hey, you got this? And he goes, yeah, but I tease about Taylor Swift, and he goes, hey, I sell a lot of Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. I think she has a new album coming out next month. I can't wait.
Yeah,
Like, I'm not going to listen to it, but I mean, I'll play it in the store, but we're going to like hit some crazy sales numbers on those days. And the thing is, it's not only about the business for me though. It's really fun
hmm
seeing young people really excited about physical product again because we kind of
yeah,
missed it.
that's
We
important.
missed like a generation of doing that for a
Mhm.
while, and like now, like 50% of my vinyl sales are people under the age of 30. So I get lots of the young kids really coming in, and they're super excited, whether it's Taylor Swift or K-pop or some of the other young artists that they're into. I love it. They're happy. They're excited. They're jumping up and down. I like it when young people are excited about records. Like that's a good thing.
Do you
You know,
think
you,
that physical media is in a resurgence of some kind? People are getting more away from streaming, or
well, I think CDs are still my number one selling item, with probably vinyls catching up to it. You don't sell as many units of vinyl as you do CDs, but the cost is 3 times as much, so you make more money. Um,
that's the determining factor for me. Is unless it's something that I absolutely just have to have on vinyl for whatever reason is in my mind, I'm more gravitating to the CD because I'm going $17, 45, $50. How can
Yeah.
it's hard to justify it, especially if you're on a budget.
But having, like I said, these young people just excited about being in a record store, excited about buying records again. It's a good thing. So it's not even just about the money for me. I just like the fact that these kids are happy. They're a lot happier than, I'm sorry, some of these. I get these older dudes that come in and they just kind of complain that some old Bob Seger record is out of print or something. I'm like, what do you, what do you want from me?
Yeah. By the way, you can go to pretty much any used record store in the city and buy the whole Bob Seger catalog for $10
right.
a piece.
Yeah,
that's pretty common records.
Yeah, right.
Live Bullet. I mean,
Yeah.
Record store. What's a record store? Yeah.
There we go.
There we go. French vinyl addict. He comes by. He lives in Quebec, but he comes by Toronto quite often. Swing by your store next time you go. Yes, it's in Cloverdale Mall in Etobicoke, Ontario. Right.
Yeah.
Sunrise Records. Definitely check it out and go say hi to Robert. Yeah. Awesome. I can't tell you how much fun I had doing this with you, man. I really appreciate it. It's great catching back up with you. We'll do it again sometime, and I promise I will get in to see you at some point.
Well, I'll let you know when the Steven book is ready to come out, and we'll hook up.
Please do that. Yes, definitely. Let's come on and talk about that for sure. I'm excited to read it. And yeah, thanks, man. I really appreciate this.
Great. Thank you, Glenn.
Okay. Thanks, everybody, for watching. And it's going to be on repeat. So there'll be lots of people watching the reruns and repeats during the day. So please check out Robert's books. Wheatfield Empire, Listener's Guide to the Guess Who, Still Competition, The Listener's Guide to Cheap Trick, and Razamasnaz, The Listener's Guide to Nazareth. Available on Amazon through Robert. Contact him and he'll send you a book, whatever. Thanks a lot. Have a good one, buddy.
Thanks, Glenn.
Okay, take care. Good night, everyone.